Most days do not fall apart because of one big mistake. They unravel quietly, almost unnoticed, like having too many browser tabs open in your mind at the same time. Each one pulls a little attention, a little energy, and none of them ever fully close. By the time the day is half over, you feel tired, not because the work was hard, but because your attention has been everywhere. And here is what most people never realize. The weight of a day is rarely created by effort. It is created by decisions made without intention. Tiny decisions, constant decisions, decisions you do not even remember making. What to check first, what to respond to, what to postpone, what to keep carrying mentally. This is how anxiety quietly takes control, not by overwhelming you all at once, but by hijacking your decision-making one moment at a time. There is a quiet skill that stops this from happening. Not confidence, not motivation, not control. It is the ability to pause just long enough before emotion decides for you. That pause may seem insignificant, but it changes everything. Here is when this matters most. Anxiety does not hijack decisions when life is calm. It shows up when something interrupts your focus. A message arrives, a request appears, a decision suddenly matters more than you expected. You feel it in the body first, a tightening, a pressure, a sense of urgency. And before you fully realize what is happening, the decision is already made. You replied too quickly. You agreed when you meant to pause. You avoided something that mattered. Not because you are careless, but because your mind reacted instead of choosing. Neuroscience helps explain why this happens. When emotion spikes, the brain prioritizes speed over reasoning. The emotional centers activate first, while the areas responsible for deliberate thinking take a moment longer to engage. This is useful in emergencies, but costly in everyday decisions. Urgency replaces clarity, motion replaces direction, and motion feels productive, even when it pulls you away from what matters most. This is why people often end the day feeling busy but unsatisfied, active all day, yet rarely deliberate. Scripture reflects this same insight in simple language, encouraging us to be slow before we respond, especially when emotion is involved. And whether you see that as wisdom from God or simply the way the universe teaches balance, the principle is the same. Pause restores authorship. That pause is not hesitation. It is the moment where choice returns. It is the difference between reacting and deciding. Here is why this simple pause changes everything. Think about how many decisions you make before midday. What to open first, whether to respond now or later, whether to switch tasks, whether to push through or step away. Each one seems small, individually harmless, but collectively, they draw from the same mental reserve. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, the gradual erosion of clarity that happens when the brain is asked to choose too often without priority. You feel it not as stress, but as heaviness, a dull resistance, a background tension that makes everything feel harder than it should. This is why distraction increases later in the day, not because you lack discipline, but because your mind is tired of deciding. The quiet skill works because it reduces how often the brain has to negotiate. When you pause before reacting, even briefly, the mind regains a reference point. It stops treating every input as equally urgent. It begins to compare instead of comply. You are no longer asking, "What should I do right now?" You are measuring, "Does this deserve my energy?" That single shift restores clarity faster than motivation ever could. You often notice the change in your body before you name it mentally. Less tightness, less internal noise, fewer emotional spikes. This is not calm as a personality trait. It is calm as a result of structure. Psychology also shows that what we allow into our mental space shapes how we think and decide. Attention is not neutral. It carries influence. Scripture echoes this idea simply, to guard what you allow into your inner world, because everything else flows from there. If you believe in God, this speaks to stewardship of the heart and mind. If you frame life through the universe or natural order, it points to the same truth. What you protect internally determines how you move externally. At this point, it helps to clarify what this skill is not. It is not about rigid control. It is not about suppressing emotion. It is not about forcing productivity. Many people resist pausing because they fear it will slow them down or make them indecisive. In reality, the opposite happens. The pause does not remove flexibility, it removes confusion. You are not saying that only one thing matters. You are saying that one thing deserves your best energy, and everything else takes its proper place. This also means the skill is not about perfection. Some days will go exactly as planned. Many will not. Unexpected demands will appear. People will need you. Situations will shift. The value of the pause is not that it creates flawless days. It is that it gives you something steady to return to when things move. Without that reference point, every interruption feels like failure. With it, interruptions become part of the terrain. Once the pause becomes a habit, something subtle changes. The day stops feeling like competing demands and starts feeling like a sequence. You still do many things, but they no longer pull at you equally. Imagine beginning the day knowing where your best energy belongs. Not the entire project, just the part that truly moves it forward. When messages arrive, they register, but they no longer dominate. When delays happen, you measure instead of spiral. Your attention stops arguing with itself. This is why people who live this way appear calm under pressure. Not because they care less, but because they decide earlier. Early decisions protect later strength. At a deeper level, the mind is not designed to hold unlimited open loops. Every unresolved choice, every pending decision, every unprioritized demand occupies mental space, even when you are not consciously thinking about it. When everything feels equally important, the brain never stops scanning. That scanning is exhausting. The pause changes the internal environment. Once the brain knows it does not need to evaluate everything equally, it relaxes. Order replaces noise. Effort feels lighter because it is no longer scattered. High performers understand this. They do not assume the day will cooperate. They expect interruptions. They expect pressure. Because of that, they protect the pause structurally, not emotionally. They decide in advance when their best energy window begins and ends. During that time, access is limited, attention is reserved. Outside that window, flexibility returns. This removes guilt. You are not saying no to everything. You are saying yes to one thing at the right time with full presence. They also accept trade-offs early. When you decide where your best energy goes, you are also deciding where it does not go. Some things will wait. Some things will be done adequately rather than perfectly. They make peace with that. Guilt fractures focus. Acceptance preserves it. This skill works best when it is applied before the day begins, the night before, or the first few minutes of the morning, before screens, before input. Ask one clear question. What deserves my best energy today? Not the loudest demand, not what looks productive. Best energy. Answer simply. One sentence is enough. Then let the decision sit quietly in the background, acting as a filter, not a command. As the day unfolds, you will notice moments where the pause does the work for you. Something appears. You pause. You compare instead of react. You are not forcing focus. Focus emerges naturally because the mind is no longer confused about what matters most. This also changes how the day ends. Most people carry unfinished attention into the evening, not unfinished tasks, but unfinished judgment. Questions like, "Did I do enough?" linger long after the day ends. When you have been clear about where your energy belonged, the day becomes easier to assess. Did the right thing receive the energy it deserved? If yes, the mind registers completion. Attention releases. Rest becomes possible. Closed loops restore energy faster than productivity ever could. Over time, this creates momentum without intensity. Days begin lighter because the previous day ended cleanly. Decisions become easier because clarity has already been practiced. You stop waking up mentally behind, not because life is easy, but because your attention is no longer fragmented. This was never about doing more. It was about deciding better. One quiet pause, practiced consistently, changes how the entire day behaves. Clarity placed early protects energy later. Effort feels lighter when it is aimed. Some days you will forget. Some days things will move faster than you expect. That is fine. The value is not perfection. It is returning to the pause when you notice yourself drifting. That is how quiet discipline works. It compounds without noise. It strengthens without strain. If this helped you slow things down, even slightly, that is enough. If someone you care about could benefit from this moment, feel free to share it with them, not to fix them, just to offer perspective. And if this resonated, a quiet thumbs up or comment helps this space grow and reach people who are building seriously, steadily, and without noise. This is Quiet Grind Daily, where self-improvers reset. Calm mind, consistent action, guided by the quiet guide. Come back when the world feels loud, or stay for more in the next quiet moment we share.